All right, where's everybody joining from? Go ahead and chat where you're from, if you wouldn't mind. Let's see. Hmm, let's see. Okay. All right, we've got people in Florida, Texas, Kauai. Okay. All right. Illinois. Oh, nice. Okay. Wasn't sure if this is too early for people in Hawaii or what. Okay. All right. Got quite a few people streaming in. I'm going to go ahead and get set up as you guys file in. We had quite a bit of interest in this particular event, so very excited to share with you guys some new information that I think is going to blow your mind. Here we go. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share in just a minute. I don't have the sharing ability just yet, but I should momentarily. Again, where are we from? Arizona. So mostly East Coast, and then we have a couple West Coast, and we have a couple of Hawaii. Okay, we've got some going on more on the West. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share. Okay, California. All right. All right, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to try to, there's a lot of information here, and I want to make sure that everyone is all set. Now, I hope that prior to this, you were able to get ChatGPT if you don't already have it. We're gonna take a poll early on in this so I can gauge how much people understand AI and how knowledgeable they are before we kind of dig in real deep. But let's jump in. So this course is all about 3 days to smarter investing with AI. And you're going to learn how to better evaluate deals, avoid costly mistakes, and grow your wealth with confidence. And I'm very excited about this. Now, let me tell you why you're going to love today and actually the next 3 days. But before we get started, let's take a poll. How would you rate your current knowledge of AI? And I want you to just type a number pick a number between 0 and 5. 0 is novice, 5 is expert. Let me know in the chat rate your knowledge of AI so I know how deep to go into this, okay? Let's see, what do we got here? 0 to 5. So if you feel like you're kind of in the middle, I know a little bit, not a lot, just give yourself a 3. If you think you're really good at this, you're all in on AI, I want to know, go ahead and give yourself a 5. If you're brand new and you're like, chat, what? Then go ahead and put a 0. All right. And most people are going to fall somewhere in between, but that will help a lot.
We've got mostly twos on the poll coming through.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mostly 2s. Awesome. Okay. That helps a lot. Thank you so much for that information. And if you're putting it in the chat, be sure to put it in the poll because that obviously helps me a lot. So we have a lot of beginners. That's great. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you've been doing this for a while. You're going to learn something new, I promise. Okay. So let's dive in. So I have always been about using time-saving tools, systems, strategies to accelerate wealth building for myself. I'm an investor. I've been there for a while. So let me just briefly touch on who I am so that you know this information is coming from someone who knows something about the topic. So my name is Tanisha Souza, and I founded and run several companies. I'm a patent holder, a lawyer. I graduated from UC Berkeley and USC Law School. I have my Juris Doctorate there. And I grew up in Silicon Valley. And as you know, that's the heart of AI. And my mother was a computer software engineer my whole life, most of my life. And she worked for decades for companies like Hewlett Packard, Fujitsu, eBay, you name it. and she retired from software engineering, but I learned a whole lot about that industry from her. And I'm the type of person, and I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person who likes shortcuts, I like time savers, I like ways that make things a lot more efficient. I like getting things done faster and with a lot less effort, and I don't like to make mistakes that other people have made. I don't like waiting in massive lines. I can't stand that. I feel like there's 100 better things that I could be doing than waiting around in line. And is anyone else out there like me that has that same problem? That's like, I don't like waiting in line. I don't like this. If so, drop a yes or a Y in the chat. Okay, drop a Y in the chat if you're like me and you don't like waiting in line. You don't like all of that, right? Right? Okay. Yes, that's what I thought. Exactly. That's me too. I would much rather pay a little bit more to cut to the front of the line or have things delivered to me. So, just to kind of give you an illustration of what I mean and what we're going to cover this week is there's an annual event where I live called the Made in Hawaii event. It's an annual event that happens every single year, and it's where small businesses, local small businesses throughout all of the Hawaiian Islands get together on the island of Oahu at the convention center and they set up booths and sell their products and services. And every year, thousands. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of people, not small numbers. Thousands of people line up outside the Hawaii Convention Center to get in line. And they do this early. Some get up as early as 4 a.m. to get over there. Some people camp out overnight to get in line because, and the reason why they do this is they want to be some of the first to get in there when the doors open. So their favorite vendors who are selling whatever products at a discount, they can get it before they run out of stock. Okay, so that's why this is such a popular event. Something happens every single year. It's always on the news, it's always on social media. So they want to get in line, they want to get into this convention center before things run out because notoriously every year people get in and they get in, maybe say it opens at 10, I don't really remember, but let's say it opens at 10 a.m. They get in at 11:30 or maybe noon and things are sold out. So now they've waited for hours in line for nothing. So they'll go in and camp out overnight. Now, you would never see me doing that. You won't see me in line at an event like that for reasons that I just mentioned. But have any of you been to Disney World? Right? Have any of you been to Disney World and stood in line for a ride? Now, I took the Avatar Flight of Passage ride. Have you ever taken that ride? Okay, it is phenomenal. It's probably my all-time favorite ride at any amusement park. I stood in line for 3 hours, for over 3 hours to get on this ride that lasted all of 4 minutes and 24 seconds. That was the first and last time I ever waited that long in line to ride any ride at any amusement park. Okay. First and last. Okay. Later, after that, right, I was like, oh my gosh, what a waste of time. When you're waiting for hours, of course, you can only ride a few rides anyway. And that's when I learned later about something called the Lightning Premier Pass and the VIP tours. Now, had I known about VIP tours before we went, which I did not, we would have gladly paid, I would have gladly paid the extra money to get taken to the front of the line access and the most popular rides. There's different levels. I mean, there's like Premier, Lightning Premier, and all this stuff, but the VIP tours will take you to the front of all of the most popular lines. There's no restrictions. You don't have to wait in another line, shorter, but another line. And you get like concierge, VIP concierge service. They meet you at your hotel, they book dining reservations, they arrange like reserved viewings for parades and things like that, and nighttime spectaculars and all that stuff. And, that would have made my experience so much better and more enjoyable and created like lots of more memories, better memories than waiting in line for 3 hours with my family. So to me, it's not worth spending an entire day to save a few dollars on some products or ride one or two rides. And it's the same reason I order my groceries on Instacart and why I've hired personal shoppers and chefs in the past. I love to cook, but if I don't have enough time, that's what I'll do. I would rather use that extra time that I have spending time on a date with my husband or watching my daughter play beach volleyball, like in a tournament, or even just traveling or taking a staycation with my family. Those experiences are way more important to me than saving a few dollars here and there. And so, one of my mentors taught me years ago, and this is important for what I'm going to share with you over these next few days because they're going to save you a lot of time and money. One of my mentors taught me years ago to put a price tag on my time. He said, "How much money do you make?" And at that time, I made a lot less money than I make now. I was I was a lawyer at the time, and to be an attorney in Hawaii, I had to take a pay cut. I was a attorney in LA after graduating law school, and I moved to Hawaii for clerkship, and then I moved back to LA, and then I came back to Hawaii. So when I moved back to Hawaii, I was making, not what they make in LA for attorneys. And he asked me, I want you to write down, this is what I want you to write down. And I want you guys to remember this or even write it down. How much you make on an annual basis. Like, what is your income? And it could be income from all sources. That's your investments, that's your job, whatever. And then he said, how many hours do you work? And at the time I was working about 60 hours because that was the average. I was working as an attorney about 60 hours a week. Then he told me to divide my annual salary by the number of weeks in a year, and then take that weekly wage and divide it by 60 hours. That gave me an hourly wage. Not, it wasn't great at that time, wasn't very big, but he said that is the value of your time. Now I work a lot less and my time is worth, a lot more, thousands of dollars per hour. So if I waste 3 hours in line at an amusement park, I've wasted like lots of money. I've wasted thousands and thousands of dollars. So I encourage you to do this exercise yourself and see how much your time is worth. What I'm going to teach you this week will multiply your time and give you a lot more time to do the things you want in more ways than one. So that's why you're going to love what we're going to talk about this week. Okay. So I created a company 20 years ago, and I've been teaching people to use systems to build wealth in a fraction of the time they could do on their own. And they do. And we'll touch on that more later. But like I said, I love using time-saving tools, systems, and strategies to accelerate wealth creation. And the reason is because I've been an investor for 25 years. And one of the most time-consuming parts of investing is research. Research. You guys know what I'm talking about? Finding the information I need that matches my investing goals. So I've been teaching people how to do deep due diligence because that's a requirement. That's necessary, especially now with the internet and so many people getting into investing. Uh, you must understand what you're investing in and who you're investing with. Those are musts. Those are not optional. You have to do that. If you don't do that, you're not really investing, in my opinion. So if you've ever had a bad experience because you didn't do enough research, you didn't do enough due diligence, drop a one, right? And in the chat. And I'll be the first to drop a one. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to put it in the chat, but I'll be the first to admit that. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? Now, investing used to take me weeks of research, and sometimes it would take me months. And it involved using a bunch of different types of software. Some of them were really expensive. And all of that changed when I learned how to use AI. And with AI, I've saved hundreds of hours in investment research and lots of money. Okay, so I'm going to show you, let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I want to show you, demo for you, one of the tools I use to invest. So we'll do that first. Okay. Okay, now I'm pulling up, of course, ChatGPT, but I want to show you how cool this is. Okay, so I've got a lot of tools here. This is called my Tanisha's Multifamily Property Analyzer. Okay, now I want to show you what I've built in the background, and we're going to be building some tools similar. Now, what I did was I basically created this tool. It's a custom GPT. You're not going to learn how to do this. I know this is really complicated, especially most of you are more beginners, but I just want to show you what's possible here. What I did was I created a multifamily analyzer that analyzes multifamily rentals in Hawaii, Nevada, and Arizona. What I did was I built inside of it my investment criteria, which we'll be covering later in this 3-day course. And I put in my minimum cash on cash return, my debt service coverage ratio, my target cap rate, my target monthly cash flow per door. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. Again, we're not going to create this. This is a little bit too advanced for what we're doing in this, but I want to show you what's possible. So what it does is it analyzes and gives a pass or fail for any property I put in. So I actually had to come up with my risk tolerance first, then my criteria, and I built that into this. And then I also put in some different financing options. I'm also looking for leasehold properties. You probably don't know what that is, but that's a special type of property only sold in different parts of the US. Not every state has what's called leasehold. So I also put in information about that so that chat was familiar with that. And then what I did was now the way I use this is I actually can put information in, I upload information about multifamily rental properties and it analyzes it for me and it gives me a result. And like I said, I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but it doesn't always give you exactly what you're looking for if you type something in wrong or whatever. And so we'll go over that so that you know what to do and what not to do. So here, what it's showing, and actually early on, I had it run a bunch of different scenarios on this one property. So I asked it for a breakdown, and I thought something wasn't right, but it basically broke down what the purchase price is. I asked, what is the maximum I can offer and still meet my criteria? At first, it gave me a different result, and I was like, okay, there's something that you missed, and it corrected the monthly cash flow breakdown because it miscalculated the lease rent, and so. I didn't miscalculate it, it misinterpreted it. I told it to use $1,500 a month, but it thought it was $1,500 per unit, which is not what it was. So then it miscalculated and told me that the property didn't match. So when I noticed that this property was a cash cow, but it was telling me it didn't work, I asked it for its rationale and how it came up with that, and that's how I saw that it misinterpreted something that I put in. So this was very cool, though. It gave me the final results. It tells me that I should pursue it. And then I ask it, what's the maximum I can offer and still meet my criteria? And it tells me how much I can offer. And then I can ask it for seller financing and everything else, and it still works. And so it's a very cool tool. And to me, it's pretty cool. So this is the type of thing that used to take me hours and hours of research, and now it takes me like minutes to do. Now I have a question for you guys. If you guys had a tool, right? If you guys had tools like this, like how about like can anyone tell me what the benefit of something like this might be for investors, right? What's the benefit of something like this? A tool like what I just shared with you guys. If you're a multifamily investor looking to buy properties, think about the advantage that gives you over other investors that are trying to buy the same rental property, right? And may not have all of the data that you have. I mean, you can run all kinds of really cool things with this once you understand how to use it. So what took days, okay, or longer than days, weeks, months, now takes me, let me repeat this, minutes. It takes me minutes, as you could see. I mean, I didn't actually do all of the queries while we were on, but I wanted you to see what it came up with a property that I uploaded into the custom GPT. So that's a custom built GPT that I created for myself. And this is the sort of thing that we're embracing at TARDIS. This is what we teach at TARDIS Wealth Strategies, how to simplify investing, avoid investing mistakes. We want our community to learn how to do this. I want you to get your feet wet. I mean, your hands dirty in this as well, so that you understand how to do this. Okay. Now you can see how important this is. And that's the reason why, as an investor and also a teacher, I'm officially in love with AI. So let's talk about what this gives us, and then we'll dive in. It really gives us leverage. Artificial intelligence is the new form of leverage. If you're not using this, you are going to be slower, right? Time is money, and you miss out on opportunities. So before we get into how to build these personal tools, I want to talk about why AI matters for wealth builders. And there's several reasons, and I want to get into that real quick. So data and decision support. AI can quickly process massive amounts of financial data, spot trends that you miss, suggest options and strategies that would take humans much longer to uncover. So your neighborhood financial planner is not using this right now, right? But the big, huge financial firms, they are. They're programming AI to review financial statements, contracts, regulatory filings, partnership agreements. They're looking at portfolio company reports to pull out key figures, and they're using it to speed up their due diligence, right? And risk assessment and reporting. That reduces a lot of manual data entry and errors and frees up the analysts to do more of the strategic work. Now imagine if all of the data entry, all the number crunching, all of that, your tools can use, you don't have to do it. You don't actually need people to do that. Here's some crazy things that the big firms are using it for. Some big firms are using it to comb through news articles and earnings reports, right? They're dealing with stocks and things, social media. Why are they doing that? Because they know that public perception tends to determine which way stock prices go. If a public perception of a certain brand or a certain, stock is a certain way, it could go up or down. And so they're combing through that, right? They have tools that will comb through that information and determine what the likely stock movement is going to be. Tools like Market Psych. There's a tool called Market Psych. Can you believe that? That helps them predict what investors will do and how it will influence stock prices. Morgan Stanley created an AI assistant that allows their advisors to ask their internal research library questions about specific investments that can give them instant insights. And then it gives them efficiency and automation. So just like we have at Tardis, the income snowball, and that's what I have my patented calculator, the income snowball calculator, it multiplies small efforts into compounding gains. AI can help automate repetitive tasks like forecasting, research, investment analysis, and that frees up investors to focus on strategic decisions. So what we're doing for you and everyone here is we're leveling the playing field, right? Regular people who want to build wealth can do so now the same way the big firms do. That tools that were only previously available to the big firms and large financial institutions, you can now compete and grow faster. Imagine that. Isn't that exciting? I get so into this stuff. It's crazy. Like when I talk to my staff, I'm just like, I just love this stuff. I love learning new things. I hope you do too. You're going to learn a lot. So in short, though, and this is really important as well, AI is not a replacement for judgment or collaboration. It's a multiplier for informed wealth building strategies. And it does make you more powerful. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it can do, what it can't do, because I don't want you to think that it's going to replace human judgment or collaboration or working with other people. AI has a lot of advantages and gives you tremendous leverage, but you have to understand what it can and cannot do. So it can synthesize large amounts of data and information in minutes. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. We were talking about how, when AI first started, it was more of a large search engine. And so it was sort of like a very advanced Google where you could research something and it would get all of the information that on the internet, and, boil it down to the best answer and give that to you. And it still does some of that, but it's beyond that now. It draws most of its information from the internet, but not all the information on the internet is correct. So that's the first thing, right? So garbage in, garbage out. But it also gets some of the information from you, and it can draw logical conclusions from the information it takes in. And it tends to make assumptions. So it can also hallucinate, right? For those of you who've been to some of my other classes on this, I talk about hallucination. That's a term they use for AI. And that's when AI just makes things up. And you're like, what? Yeah, it can do that. And it's because it's trained to give you an answer based on any fact it finds on the internet. And if it can't find the answer, then it will assume the answer or just make it up if it can't answer the question or if it can't find it. So It also can't come up with its own original creative ideas. So if something doesn't already exist or someone hasn't thought of something yet, it's not going to come up with it on its own. I don't know if it will be able to do that in the future, but it can't do that right now. So that's the reason why it cannot replace human judgment and collaboration. This is very important for you to know. Okay, so with that said, using these tools most effectively starts with defining your risk tolerance and criteria. So let's do that first because most people skip it. I think it's because they think it's not important or they don't know why they need to know their risk tolerance. It's not something for us, it's not something for me, it's something for you. You have to know this. And here's why it's a crucial step. Risk tolerance helps you identify the right investment types and strategies for you and the amount of volatility you can stomach. And the criteria you use, which you saw me build that was what I built into my tool that I use for my multifamily investing, helps with decision making. You can quickly eliminate investments that don't match your requirements. So returns, time, liquidity. Knowing your risk tolerance and criteria help you keep laser focused on the right investments and prevents random emotional decisions like shiny object syndrome. Have you ever had that? Right? It ensures each choice you make builds upon your wealth goals. So listen, before you invest in anything, you need to know your risk tolerance. And again, we're not gathering this information. We don't need it. We don't have anything to sell you, right? We don't sell products, investment products or anything like that. Now, I could see, potentially if you were working with, if we were a financial planning firm and we had investments to sell you, we'd probably want to know that so we knew which investments to direct your way. But that's not what we do. We don't sell investment products. We don't care what you invest in. But we know from over 20 years of experience in teaching, investing ourselves, that it's critical for you to know this. And it's personal. Wealth building is personal. What works for your neighbor or even your best friend might totally backfire on you. And I'm not kidding about this, and I've seen it happen. Blindly following someone else's money moves, I mean, that's like a surefire way to get frustrated and, veer off course. When you understand why, okay, when you understand why you're investing the way you are, everything changes. You start making decisions that actually make sense and match up with your own goals, not somebody else's. And that gives you the confidence, makes things clearer, and gives you a whole lot more peace of mind, right? You're not going to be up at night. So we've made mistakes like this, and I'm going to give you a real quick story. So Chris and I invested a long time ago, many years ago, in a hotel, in a hotel in on the East Coast. And this is many, many years ago. Chris even flew out, right? My husband Chris even flew out to the East Coast to take a look at this hotel and get a tour. We looked at the financials and stuff, but really we knew nothing about the hotel industry. It was way beyond our risk tolerance. We ended up losing close to $500,000 on that investment. There was nothing inherently wrong with it. It just did not, it just didn't perform. Okay. And the hotel ended up going out of business. We knew nothing about that, it was way too risky for us and we couldn't really tolerate it. I mean, I actually had a bad feeling about it, and you got to go with your gut sometimes too, but I went ahead with it. And that's when we discovered the idea of knowing your risk tolerance and knowing what your criteria is, because you're not going to get distracted by some random investment that someone, shows you that sounds really good, but is not what you should be doing. And I've seen clients buy investments that are 180 degrees different from what their risk tolerance is and their investment criteria, because other TARDIS clients are investing in it because they heard about it at a webinar like this. But the results were disastrous because it really just they had no business in that investment in the first place. So this is why it's so important for you to know this. All right, now, okay, so let's get started. I want you to pull up your Chat GPT. So as we're going through this, I want you to pull up Chat GPT. And if you have the free version, great. Some of the things that you're going to learn throughout the next couple of days, though, you're probably going to need to get the paid version of ChatGPT. And you guys, remember, I already shared this with you. It's worth it. It's going to save you time. Like, people are like, I just want to use the free version. Just pay for it. Pay for it. It's going to help you get to what you want to do. So let's get into demo time here. Okay. So the first thing I want to do before we dive in is I want to show you how to prompt. Okay, so we're gonna start with this. Um, so the prompt strategy, and this is I want you to memorize the RAT, R-A-T, which is basically stands for role, action, and target. So if all of your prompts are in that format, and even some of the instructions that you'll put in if you when you build custom GPTs, that's going to help make sure that you get the right result. A lot of people are frustrated by AI and ChatGPT because they just don't know how to prompt, right? They're doing it incorrectly. So I want to show you the right way to do it. And this, if you follow the system, it's going to make sure that you get the information that you want most of the time. So the first R is for role. So you want to tell AI who it should be. For example, you are a real estate educator. So if I'm trying to get educated, I'm new to real estate investing, for example, then I may use that. You're a real estate educator. I want to get information. I want to get educated about real estate investments. That would be one of your first moves if you've never invested before. Okay, so that's just an example. Or you could say, you are a personal chef, or if you're trying to, if you're trying to get a recipe or something like that. I've used it that way as well. So the role is who the AI is the expert at. We want it to be an expert at teaching you something, okay, or whatever it is. Now, the second thing is action. So, A for action. You want to tell AI what you want it to do. So, for example, you wanted to explain to me how cash on cash return works, or explain to me what a cap rate is on real estate investments, or give me a list of the top cities for, military families or whatever. Summarize this document for me, or summarize this contract or whatever, or give me three examples. So you have to be specific. I think one of the things people do is they're very general, and they think that when they're prompting and they think that AI is going to give them a result they want, but actually it's not good. It never works out well when you're overly general when prompting AI. So another thing is the third part is T for target. So you want to clarify the audience and the format. For example, who's the audience? If it's you and you're, say, a beginner with AI, you would say for a beginner investor, or a beginner in AI, or a beginner investor in plain language. There are a lot of things if you're researching, it may give you a lot of technical information, a lot of technical knowledge, and you may not have the background to know how to do that. So you want to say plain English or for beginner. And then you also want to say in a table format. That's just an example, or a checklist, a five-step checklist. So when the format is like table, checklist, those types of things in a paragraph, in a sentence. And then for who, the audience, the target. So you need a target audience and you need a target format. When you do that, and that's the one I think people miss the most, that is how you can do a correct prompt. So a complete prompt looks like: you are a real estate educator. Explain how leverage works for a beginner investor in plain language using a simple analogy. So that's an example of a good prompt. You're telling it who it is, what its role is, real estate educator. Explain, right, what we want it to do. Explain how leverage works, and then the target is a beginner investor in plain language, and the format is a simple analogy. So I hope this makes sense. Is everybody following me so far? If I'm going too fast, let me know. Type in the chat if you think I'm going too fast. Okay. All right, good. Okay, good, good, good. Okay. All right. Now, let's go into a weak prompt versus a strong prompt, right? And we're going to do some live practice, and we're going to get into some other things. So a weak prompt versus strong prompt. So weak prompt, an example of a weak prompt would be, teach me how to budget. Okay, so teach me how to budget. That's too general. It's like, okay, who's the audience? Is this for someone skilled? Is this for a beginner? what format do you want it in? Like, how do you want it laid out? All that kind of stuff. So without that, it's weak. And my kids, they would, be doing some research on something and they'd say, "Oh, darn, ChatGPT," and it's not giving me the answer that I want. And the reason for that is because the prompting was not strong. Here's an example of a strong prompt. You are my budgeting assistant. That's the role. List 5 unique ideas for someone who wants to find an extra $500 per month in their budget. Write them in plain English to someone new to budgeting and show pros and cons in a table. So I gave it the target. I gave it the role. I gave it the action I wanted it to take, the thing I wanted it to do. I gave it the target audience and the target format. So all of those things made it a much stronger prompt, and I'm going to get a different result from the weak prompt than the strong prompt. Okay. Now I've done this with very complicated spreadsheets as well. I was trying to figure out how to run a payroll report through an advanced Excel spreadsheet. But I'm not good with Excel. Like it's not something, I can do regular, formulas and things like that, but really advanced formulas, that's not me. So I actually use ChatGPT to help me learn how to create those types of formulas and things like that. Now, at first, when I did it, it was very complicated and I got very frustrated. The reason was because I knew it wasn't giving me the right answer. And when I figured out what it was misinterpreting, it was actually misinterpreting some things that I put down. I was able to make changes to my prompts and it made it work. Okay. So let's do some live practice. We're going to get into some live practice real quick here. And then Okay, so live practice. So you are a chef. Okay, so I want you guys to try this. Okay, you are a chef. Give me 3 quick dinner ideas using chicken and rice. Okay, I want you to try that. How many of you guys have used this for recipes and things around the house? Have you done that? Now, here's the interesting thing about this. I use this to do for, I think the first time I ever used this for that purpose, I put in, this is my prompt. I said, I have ground beef. Give me, 5 different dinner ideas on what to have for dinner, what to make the dinner for dinner with ground beef. And it gave me this some recipes that sounded phenomenal, but they were so exotic. I had none of the ingredients. Like the ingredients were like stuff like I had no idea what it was. So I literally had to go back in. And again, it wasn't specific enough, right? Because I didn't tell it, what I had. So I went back and I said, I don't have any of those ingredients. Here's what I've got. I've got this, 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 and this. Now, along with the ground beef, now tell me what I can make. And it came up with some great recipes. And then I made a few adjustments. I said, hey, I want to change that. It was basically spaghetti and meat sauce, right? Which is kind of boring. So I said, well, what about vodka sauce? So it came up with a, meat sauce, spaghetti al vodka with meat sauce, and it was amazing. My family absolutely loved it. And I had all the ingredients and it was great. So I want to know if you did that, you were a chef, give me 3 quick dinner ideas using chicken and rice. What did it come up with? Go ahead and type in the chat what some of the answers were you got to that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Someone said take it. That's good. That's good. Okay. Chicken. Okay. This is great. Ah, interesting. Now look at what other people are saying. Look in the chat to see what other people are saying. Okay. So you can see that some of you are getting very similar answers. Some of you are getting a little bit different answers. And so it may be that you slightly change the prompt. Or it could be just that it is giving you just different ideas based on what you have. And you can also, someone said, you can take a picture of what's in your fridge or your pantry and have it use those things as your ingredients. Very, very good. Okay, let's try the next one. You are a personal trainer. Create a 10-minute home workout for a beginner with no equipment. Now, you can also make that more specific based on your, you know, your ability of training. Maybe you're new, maybe you're actually more experienced. Maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're not, maybe you're, super skinny, you want to build muscle, maybe you want to lose some weight. Either way, you can maybe add things like that to it, to your prompt and see what it says. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So the more history you have in your ChatGPT, the more likely it will pull from your preferences. So you're going to see different answers, even though people may use the exact same prompt. And this is the reason why you won't always get the same answer as someone else, which is actually not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Okay. Yep, that's great. That's great. Okay. What did you get when you asked about the personal trainer? Create a 10-minute home workout for a beginner with no equipment. Okay. Very good. Wow, interesting. Beginner body weight circuit. Yep. Okay. Good. Got a lot of good things here. Yes, now you don't have to drive to the gym anymore. You can just have ChatGPT do some of your work. No, that's not always going to work because, of course, it's not necessarily going to motivate you to work out, but okay, good. So some people varied it. They varied it a little bit because they said I have exercise bands or whatever. So they varied it. So that's all good. So you can see that depending on the details you put in your prompt, what a difference that makes and how that works. So now let's do this last one. This is more on the investing side, and we're going to get more into this. You are a rental real estate researcher. List three cities where rental income is growing in 2025 and explain why in one sentence each. So try that prompt. You are a rental real estate researcher. List three cities where rental income is growing in 2025. Explain why in one sentence each. And you can also make that prompt a little bit better and more specific by getting more specific with the T in RAT, right? The target and the format. We gave the format one sentence each, but we didn't say, uh, who the audience was. Okay, so you can be more specific with that, and you'll get even better results. Okay, so real quick on that one, I want to hear from you. What did you guys get from that one? Okay, interesting. Oh, look at that. We got some different answers. And it gives you the why. So that's what's key, right? Um, Someone said, Boise, Idaho, San Francisco, California, and it gives why, and it talks about how fast it's growing. And some of that might be due to where it knows you live, and so it's looking for three cities where rental income is growing near you. Maybe that's what it's doing as well. So again, it's looking for information. It's gathering information from the internet, and also it's gathering information from you. Okay, someone said Huntsville, Alabama. Someone got Newark, New Jersey, Cleveland, Ohio, and Columbia, South Carolina. Interesting. Okay, so it's coming up with some really interesting. Okay, yeah, interesting. So we're getting people that are getting some of the same answers and some people that are getting very different results from this. So that just goes to show you what's out there. So if you just keep looking at the chat, you'll see what people are typing in. Go ahead and put your answers in the chat so other people can see what answers you're getting. Now, and some people aren't putting the reasons why, that's fine. They're just putting the top three cities that have come up from their prompt. Okay, so this is good. All right, so far, have you guys learned something so far? Yes? Okay. Awesome. Okay, now let's talk about why most beginners fail, and we'll get into more on the risk tolerance side. So I think I mentioned this, most beginners fail because they're not using the T and RAT. They're not, they're missing the correct audience level. Explain it like I'm 12. They're missing the format that you want to give the information in. Give it to me as a list, a table, give it to me as step by step, a checklist, instructions or they're missing the tone, right? Make it professional and friendly. I really didn't go into that, but that you don't always need that, but I like that when I'm trying to either write something or when I'm trying to give to allow it to explain something to me in a way that I would understand it better. So, and I wouldn't say professional, but friendly in those instances, but I would say, plain English or that kind of thing. So you always want to add one audience level instruction and one formatting instruction to make your prompts clearer. AI is only as smart as your instructions. If you don't like what it gives you, don't get frustrated. Just reprompt using that acronym RAT, Role, Action, Target. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some homework, right? I'm going to give you some homework for tomorrow, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be building. So, and you can try a couple of other prompts too. Like one of the things that I would suggest overnight is maybe asking a question similar to, you are a debt payoff specialist. Tell me the order to pay off my debts and why and that kind of thing. And in playing, give it the audience. You would be the audience, right? If you're advanced or a beginner or whatever, and give it that information. Now, you might not have any debt, but you can make it up so that it could explain it to your child or something like that, and see if your child understands how that works, something like that. Now, you could do that. But the real homework that I want you to do is I want you to complete the risk assessment profile GPT. Now, this is we're gonna drop this in the chat. Okay, we're gonna drop this in the chat. And again, I won't see your answers. This is for you, and you're gonna need it for what we're going to be building on day 3 and what we're going to be building tomorrow. So we're actually going to build this GPT. I'm going to help you build this tomorrow. But for now, what I want you to do is use it and see what the result you get, because you're going to need your answers to put into the other GPT that you're going to build that we're going to build together on day 3. All right. So, all right, I want to answer any questions anyone has right now before we kind of wrap up for today's session. Okay. If you have questions, you can actually just, I guess you can put it in the chat. Um, oh, someone said the link is not working. Okay, the link is not working. All right. Okay, you know what? Let's see. Someone said they have a paid account and it's not working. So let's see. You know what? Maybe what I have to do is I've got to make it public. So let me do that. I think that might be the problem. Okay. I think you can use it even in a free account. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going back into my chat real quick, and we're going to make that adjustment right now.
Do you want me to ask you some questions while you're doing that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
One of the main questions that came in a couple of times was about using other AI tools instead of ChatGPT, why you would choose ChatGPT over others.
Yes. Let's see. Anyone with the link. Okay, so I just made the link public. I think that was the challenge. So now you guys should have the link. I'm going to copy the link.
They say it's working now.
Oh, it's working now? Oh, good. Okay, great. All right. So I'll have to do that with the other ones that I'm going to be sharing with you guys too. Yes, I actually use quite a few different tools. Because most of the people on this are fairly new to AI, we're going to be sticking with kind of one that everyone knows, which is ChatGPT. But I use a lot of tools, and I mean, I would blow your mind with some things that I've been able to do. And I don't want to, but I'll just give you an example. There is a tool, since you guys asked about other tools, and it's called Notebook LM, and I love it. It's a Google product. And I pay for that one too. And again, I will pay for every one of these tools because it saves me so much time and money. My husband and I have a very complicated estate plan. And we have, I think, about 10 different entities, and we have, let's see, 10 entities. We have 2 trusts. We have a lot of different things going on. And tax-wise and everything is kind of complicated. We have tax attorneys, we have tax strategists, and we have tax preparers, and they're different people working together. So they'll ask me different questions. I've met with them multiple times over the years, but we record all of our meetings. So what I did was I took the transcripts from those meetings, I put them in Notebook LM, right? And partnership taxes were due yesterday. The partnership taxes were due recently. And so what I did was I went ahead and I looked at all that information and I put it in there and then I asked questions and I said, well, if I take money from this life insurance policy to purchase this property, what entity should that money go into? If I take money from here and do this, should I put this in my family bank? If we want to buy if we want to buy a car, where should that go? And it was able to answer every single one of my questions based on the answers that my lawyers gave me over the last several years in meetings. It was able to actually extract and then give citations to what the lawyer said. Now imagine how much money that's saving me, right? Because a lawyer costs $300, $400 per hour. If I were to call them and say, now, what did you say again? I remember a couple of years ago, you told me that I should transfer money this way, or I should use this entity, or I should use the family bank to do this, or to fund that, or the trust to do this. And it's hard to remember all of that. It's so complicated. But now I don't have to remember it. I just ask the questions and it gives me the answers and citations for the meetings and who said it. It's phenomenal. It's crazy. I was so excited about that. I can tell you about that. So anyway, so there's lots of tools actually. We probably use at our company at TARDIS, we probably use about um, 8 different tools right now. And so, I love it. I think you're going to love it too, but we're just going to stick with the basics right for this 3-day course, and you're going to learn a lot anyway. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, someone's talking about how do you identify hallucinations and know when you're getting wrong information?
Okay, that's a good question. Not easy to answer either. What I'd like to do, because I think ChatGPT is one of the ones that hallucinates the most that I've seen, is I like to ask it for sources and for evidence of, and for information on how it arrived at that conclusion. So, for example, on my multifamily that I shared with you, I asked it to analyze the property and it said it doesn't meet any of your criteria. There's no cash flow. And I'm like, no, of course there's cash flow there. There's something wrong. So I said, I think you're wrong. How did you arrive at that conclusion? So then it broke down the math. It started with the net operating income and went down. And I said, and I saw it, and I saw what it did wrong. And I said, okay, you're doing the math wrong. The ground lease rent is not 1,500 per unit. It's $1,500 for the building per month. So redo the calculation. So then it redid it. And so if it doesn't know something, it will make it up. It will just assume it if it's missing information or it misinterpreted something you said, and that's the reason why it hallucinates. So just ask it to basically provide evidence for its source. And let's say this. Here's another thing. Oh gosh, I read this the other day. This I blew my mind. There was a doctor I watched on the internet who was using ChatGPT for some, I don't know, some information she was looking for, and she asked it for to give her some information, and it did. And she said, "Well, what are your sources?" And it gave some journals and stuff, and some she had never heard of. And so she's like, I've never heard of this. And she looked it up and it didn't exist. And it made up a medical journal. And so and then it admitted it, right, when she confronted it and said, this is not real, or, I can't find this anywhere, whatever. And it said, oh yeah, you're right, blah, blah, blah. So usually it will admit that it made things up as well if you ask. Yeah, I know it's weird. But it will be easier to tell the more you use it. And if the information just is kind of off or the sources, you need to check the sources. So when it gives you a source, be sure to just check it, double check the source to make sure that it's accurate. All right. Any other questions?
Awesome. I think a lot of the other questions were about the replay. So we will send out the replay right after this. So anyone who missed some of it can catch up before day 2 tomorrow. And we'll share the link to the Risk GPT again in the email as well.
Great. All right, you guys, very exciting. We have so much more to share. This is just scratching the surface. Go ahead and take that risk assessment. You're going to use that for the things we're going to build, but we are going to build the risk assessment that you just took, or that you're going to take as your homework.